What is happening, everyone? Joe Badger here, your money mentor, where I help you with investing, business, and finance because money never sleeps. Right now, it's all about cars. Cars are so ingrained in all of our lives, and they are incredibly expensive. They are big ticket items. And one of the worst things is that they go down in value. They depreciate because we wear them down. So I put together a great list of high value cars, 7 cars that are going to save you a lot of money. And when I say cars, I got a little surprise in there, a couple of them actually, because one of them rhymes with truck. But just don't tell anybody right now. But I want you to stick around to the end because we have a bonus for you, a bonus that includes what to avoid when purchasing a car that's going to save you a lot of money. So let's get into it. When I'm talking about a great, reliable car that's inexpensive, I'm usually talking about a used car because they are so much more of a value than a brand new car. But that's going to be for you to decide for yourself. If you buy a used car, absolutely have a mechanic look at it. One time, I looked at an old Ford Mustang. Boy, that sounds familiar. And the frame was cracked, and I didn't know it, but the mechanic saw it right away. I mean, the frame was bent. So this car, I was going to drive it off the lot, and it was going to go break in half. So you got to have a mechanic look at it. And absolutely, all of these cars are going to fit my 4 main criteria. Number 1, reliable. Number 2, affordable. Number 3, they're going to last for a lot of miles and actually be low on gas as well. And number 4, they're going to be inexpensive to repair. And that includes both labor and parts. The very first car I'm going to recommend is the Toyota Corolla, the 4-cylinder. This is one of the absolute stalwarts of the car industry and is famous for lasting a long time, being inexpensive. And there are people who have said that they've put up to 200, 300, 400,000 miles on a Toyota Corolla over many, many years, as long as they just maintain them. It's an awesome car and a great car to start the list off. And number 2, also at the top of the list, is the Toyota Camry. Now the Camry, what makes it different than the Corolla is you can get a 6-cylinder engine, and that's going to be more power, but you're also going to be going through more gas, and it's going to cost you more, and you're going to have a little bit more luxuries. But it's almost tied with the Corolla. The Corolla is the less expensive model. Camry is more luxurious and has a little bit more bells and whistles on it, but still, it's going to be reliable, inexpensive to repair. There are tons of parts to be found for these cars. The next car, the third car, is the Honda Civic. The Honda Civic competes with the Toyota Corolla. It has a 4-cylinder engine, very reliable. You're going to get great gas mileage, and this car is going to last a long time. Now, keep in mind, you got to take care of these cars. Otherwise, like any machine, they're going to fall apart. But the Honda Civic, awesome car. Next in line is the Honda Accord. Now, the Honda Accord competes with the Toyota Camry. You can get a 6-cylinder engine. It could be a little more luxurious, and it can cost you a little more. But in the end, it's very well made. It's going to last a long time. You can find parts everywhere when you need to repair it. You don't have to take the whole thing apart just to do a small repair like you would for, say, example, on some of the European luxury cars. So the Honda Accord is always a great bet. Next is the Ford Mustang, and I know this is going to surprise a lot of people, but the Ford Mustang, and boy, that's why it sounded so familiar. The Ford Mustang has been around since 1964. In other words, they made a ton of them, and people love them, and there are parts, and you can repair them, and mechanics are familiar with them, and they are well made. In fact, it's one of the few things that the Ford Motor Company, in my humble opinion, does well. They make good Ford Mustangs. Here's the caveat. They come in a big 8-cylinder muscle engine. You don't want that. You may want that if you want to spend a lot of money, but if you want to be more cost conscious, you buy the 6-cylinder model. It's less expensive, and it isn't going to be driven, if you're buying used, it isn't going to be as driven as hard as the big muscle car 8-cylinder engine. Now, this sounds like a contradictory recommendation, but like I said, they've been around. You can get parts. People know how to work on these cars. They're well known, and it's something that Ford's been doing for a long time, and they're very good at. The next car that I would recommend is a Lexus. Now, what is a Lexus? A Lexus is basically another Toyota. The Toyota makes a luxury line, and that is the Lexus. And you can get them 6-cylinder engines, and you can get them with a lot of bells and whistles. But in the end, they're going to cost a little more, but in the end, they are a great car, well made, because they're made by their parent company, Toyota. Here is one tip and one suggestion. Go to Consumer Reports and look up the different Lexus models. Now, not all cars are created equal, but Lexus is an excellent brand because the parent company, Toyota. Go to Consumer Reports and they'll list cars that, for example, have a lot of problems, different years, different models, and avoid those. But on the whole, Lexus is a good bet, especially if you want to go a little bit more luxury. The last vehicle on my list is not a car, but it's a truck. It is the Ford F-150. And why is the Ford F-150 on the list? Because once again, this is one of the few things that the Ford Motor Company really does well. They know Ford F-150s. They know this truck, and it's been reliable forever. People have bought these cars and had them for 20 years or more, and they really have stood the test of time. So it's an excellent value. It's a great truck. It may be a little expensive when you're first buying the truck, but it's going to run forever. You're going to be able to find parts. The labor's not going to be too intensive. These are great values. Overall, the Ford F-150 is something that's been around for so long, and it's been very reliable and great on your wallet. When we talk about cars and money, here's what you want to avoid. First of all, the exotic European cars. They are very expensive to buy, and then their values drop significantly. And that's why you can buy a used one for a low price, because everybody knows they're just terrible to repair. They have complex electrical systems, and when you take them in for repairs, the repairs cost more than you paid for the price of the car to begin with. Other things to avoid are turbo engines. I know that sounds great. Like, wow, they turboed this engine. It's going to go faster and more efficient. What happens is a turbo puts more stress on the engine, and when they blow, they're terribly expensive to repair. Another thing you're going to want to avoid is a brand new model car, because when it's brand new, it hasn't yet been on the market and tested. That normally takes 2 to 3 to 4 years to figure out if it's a lemon or if it's a reliable car. So avoid brand new models. Extra warranties. They're always trying to sell you extra warranties at a dealership. I went to a dealership, and the first line of defense was the salesman. After I was done with the salesman, he gave me to the super salesman. You know who the super salesman is? It's the finance guy. The finance guy who has a list of things they want to sell you other than the car, like warranties. You have to avoid the useless warranties that aren't going to do you any good in the end. Lastly, when we're talking about cars, there are two major things that are going to cost you a lot of money in the end. Number one is the engine, and number two is the transmission. If those two things are good, then you have a great car. Those are at the top of the order. Next comes things like suspension, body, interior, frame, tires. But really, it's all about the engine and the transmission, because when those go, they cost you a small fortune. So you want to take care of your engine. It's true what they say about oil changes, because oil is what keeps that engine from blowing up and breaking when it shouldn't. So these are a lot of the things that you definitely want to avoid in order to avoid extra expenses. So those are the 7 awesome cars that are going to save you a lot of money. If you like this sort of thing, like, comment, subscribe, because we got a lot more coming and you do not want to miss out. Other than that, that's all I got. Now get back to work because money never sleeps. I'll talk to you later.